Would you like to come out today?" "Oh, yes, please," said Edward. So they lit his fire, made lots of steam, and Edward puffed away. The other engines were very cross at being left behind. Edward worked hard all day. The coaches thought he was very kind, and the driver was very pleased. Edward liked shunting. It was fun playing with trucks. He would come up quietly and give them a push. Then he would stop and the silly trucks would go bump into each other. "Oh!" they cried, "whatever is happening?" Edward played till there were no more trucks. Then he stopped to rest. Presently he heard a whistle. Gordon was very cross. Instead of nice shining coaches, he was pulling a lot of very dirty trucks. Then there was trouble. "Gordon can't get up the hill," the porter called to Edward's driver. "Will you take Edward and push him, please?" They found Gordon halfway up and very cross. His driver and fireman were talking to him severely. And almost before he realized it, Gordon found himself at the top of the hill. "I've done it, I've done it, I've done it," he said proudly. He forgot all about Edward and didn't wait to say thank you. Edward was left out of breath and far behind. He ran on to the next station, and there he found that the driver and fireman were very pleased with him. Edward was the only engine left. "I'll come and try," he said. "Huh," said Gordon. "That's no use. Edward can't push the train." Edward puffed and pushed and pushed and puffed, but he couldn't move the heavy coaches. The yard has never been the same since Thomas left to run his branch line, he thought sadly. Edward was shunting. "Leave those trucks, please, Edward," said the fat controller. "I want you to push coaches for me in the yard." "Thank you, sir, that will be a nice change." "That's a good engine, off you go then." So Edward found coaches for the 3 engines, and that day the trains ran as usual. "Broken up, what a shame! Broken up, what a shame! I must help Trevor, I must." He thought of all his friends who liked engines, but strangely none of them would have room for a traction engine at home. It's a shame, he hissed. Then, beep, beep! Why didn't I think of him before? There, on the platform, was the very person. The fireman was ready when Edward arrived. The inspector saw the pole and the rope. "Good man, jump in. Why don't you help me with these trucks?" Duck felt happier with Edward and set to work at once. The trucks were silly, heavy and noisy. The 2 engines had to work hard, pushing and pulling all afternoon. At last they reached the top of the hill. "Goodbye," whistled Duck, and rolled gently over the crossing to the other line. But the signalman at the junction wasn't told about the change. By mistake, he sent Edward along the main line. Gordon was sent along the branch and arrived cold and cross on one of the sidings near the harbour.
Duck pulled away the trucks, and Edward helped Thomas back to the junction. Suddenly, Thomas remembered about the missing tar. He told Edward all about it. "That's strange," said Edward. "A truck full of tar has been left at my station. That must be it. Driver will make sure it gets to Bertie now." Later, James spoke to Thomas. "I'm sorry about your accident," he muttered. "And so is Gordon. We didn't mean to get you into trouble." "I'd like to help too," sighed Edward. "But without my rails, I wouldn't be much good at a garden party." It was a beautiful day, but Edward was worried. "I wish there was something I could do for the party," he said. "I'd like to be helpful like Trevor." Edward's driver laughed. "You're helpful in your own way, and that's on the railway." Next day, it was Trevor's turn to look disappointed. He had bad news. The vicar's been so busy, he forgot to put up the posters.
It's not about the parakeet!